Hello and welcome to another edition of Fides Podcast. My name is Jerry Serino and I'm your host, and I'm here with talent on loan from Rush. I have had on my show, I've had so many young people. I've been doing talks at area universities here in Ohio, where I'm located, and I have seen the strength and the leadership of our youth. I guess they're calling themselves Generation Z. I'm not really sure anymore. They're so far removed. I have children that are Generation Z, so it's a little strange to me. But I see these young people, and they are such strong leaders. They're very, very strong pro-lifers. And when I see people who are young and who are showing great leadership and great strength when it's very, very tough today to be a Christian and to be pro life. And when I see young people, I always want to showcase what they're doing. My guest today is someone I found on social media, which I very often do. And I've learned to find really great people. And my guest is Skylar Culbertson. She is from the College of William and Mary, and she is joining me today. Skylar, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me on, Jerry.
Yeah, my pleasure. So, what I found being about some of the things that you were posting is that you're in sort of leadership positions. So you're the president of William and Mary Tribe for Life. So that's the pro group there at William and Mary College in Williamsburg, Virginia. If for those that don't know, you're also an ambassador at Leadership Institute, which I'll let you talk about both these groups. But Leadership Institute is a group that teaches people how to be conservative and defend their views. So, but let's start with you. So, you're in college. When are you graduating? In the next couple of years?
So I'm a transfer student. I graduated from Lord Fairfax Community College 2 years ago. So this is my senior year at William Mary. So I'll be graduating in less than a month.
Oh, excellent. You're just about to get out in the real world. Okay. So tell me about your pro life background and conservative background, right? Because they really do go hand in hand. I personally don't think that you can be Christian and not be pro life, or conservative, and I don't think you can be conservative and not be pro life. So tell me about your background and what was your upbringing like, as much as you're willing or able to share, about that kept you strong in your Christian conservative pro-life beliefs.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So growing up, I grew up in a very Christian, conservative home. My parents, raised me very well, grounded in biblical beliefs. My brother actually is gay, and he has, very, very different beliefs than me. Very progressive, very atheist. So I guess growing up, I kind of was exposed to both, and kind of, got to hear both arguments in our household. And so coming into William Mary, I always was like, you know what, I just want to keep the peace in my house. I have no, preference toward any one side. So I was kind of like more borderline liberal, because I would always tend to side with my brother on things. And whenever I transferred to William Mary from my community college, obviously politics is so widely discussed on campus and pretty much in every classroom. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I can't just ignore politics. Like I have to get involved, or at least know my facts on things. And I remember one of the first classes that I took coming to William Mary was COVID-19 and the pandemic. And essentially, it was just talking about the pandemic and relating it to Donald Trump and his actions during the pandemic. And pretty much the class was just all bashing Donald Trump. And I was like, oh my gosh, my parents were right. Indoctrination is not just a right-wing talking point. Like, it is so real. And I experienced that not only in this one class, but throughout all of my classes. And then, so I kind of did some more research after that, started to get into, different political topics. And one of those was abortion. And I would say, I was always pro-life, but never outspoken about it, nothing to the extent that I am today. And all of a sudden, God just kept putting on my heart that, the Planned Parenthood Club on campus was very active, and there was no pro-life presence whatsoever. And I hated seeing so many women on campus thinking that abortion was their only option, and that, you have to have an abortion to be successful. That's such a lie. So I felt really God calling on me to step in as a leader. And I would in no means consider myself a leader, somebody that's like outspoken, but it's crazy how God uses the least qualified people for his glory.
I know that because I am the least qualified. I'm doing with my show and going around. I've spoken at two colleges here in Ohio, and I have more coming up, and I want to do. Yeah, and I often think like, why me? But no, it's a great perspective to have and very mature. For your age, although you're you know certainly an adult. So how was it received? I mean, that I didn't know that they actually had a class on COVID-19. That's
They did,
what you're telling me.
yes. I mean,
Okay,
they
so they had a
have pretty
class.
much, yeah, they have pretty much every class you could imagine that has to do with, liberalism. So they have, gender studies is a pretty big major here.
Mhm.
And pretty much, even if you go into the STEM field, somehow
Mm,
they find a way to relay it back to some liberal talking point. They just fit it
yeah,
in. And they require us to take what they call our call classes, and these are just part of the correct curriculum at William Mary. So we're forced to take those. So even if like we try to avoid liberalism, it always makes its way in some way or another. Um,
yeah.
but in terms of how it was received on campus, yeah, I really didn't get involved until there was this one protest that as soon as the Supreme Court decision leaked for Roe, the Vox,
Mhm.
which is the Planned Parenthood Club, was doing some protests to that, and I was like, you know what? All of these tourists here in Williamsburg, because it's a very touristy area, are going to see all of these students, Gen Z, protesting, the pro-lifers. And I was like, I cannot stand for this. So I asked a few of my friends, and they were like, oh, I'm not ready to go out and protest yet. So I was like, okay. So I just grabbed a little tiny sign that I had and stood in front of all of the pro-abortion people and protested there. And that was pretty much the day that like changed everything for me, because I actually had some tourists join me in protesting. They prayed for me. I think that was really like a big God wink moment, as I like to call it, where just everything changed.
Yeah, that is really awesome, it actually goes to proof of what I say is that sometimes we as conservatives is we think that we're the minority, and I think that that's a natural thing in society when everybody around us seems to be the opposite. Yet when we stand up and show who we are, like in your case, you said, I'm going to go protest. And you saw that people were actually drawn to you, and there were more people than you think. And guarantee you, there were plenty, as you mentioned, with your friends who were like, I'm not quite ready. At least they were on your side. And
Yes,
you showed by example. So I think that's the lesson that I've learned is we should go out and do the truth, speak the truth, do what we know is right, and people will follow us, and that's what we are
absolutely.
truly called to do. That's what we're called to do. Okay, so how other than that protest experience, I mean, did you ever have the opportunity in your classes to speak up and challenge some of the things that they were saying? Or understandably, because I have two sons in college, and honestly, they just kind of understandably just kind of roll their eyes and go about their class. What have you done, if anything?
Yes. So I've taken a variety of classes. I wouldn't say abortion has been brought up, that particular issue in many of my classes, but in one class, it was actually a film class, which is crazy. Like, how can abortion be brought up? But we were talking about just um, human rights and how in the past, people like personhood, the idea of personhood, and we were talking about
Mhm.
like Nazi Germany and the Holocaust. And somehow I was like, I'm going to fit this in some way or another because people need to hear it. And I just, brought up the statistic that, 86% of babies with Down syndrome are aborted. So I feel like I try and fit it in when I can. And then obviously if there's, a political issue that they're addressing, I will speak up. But you definitely have to, choose your battles for sure. And obviously, a big concern of mine is, is speaking out, going to affect my grades. And I think at
Mhm.
the end of the day, you kind of have to figure out, what is more important to you. And
Mhm.
for me, that is standing up for what I believe is right. And I think if there is any backlash from the teachers or professors, they're going to have some major issues if they're, failing you because of your political beliefs.
Yeah. Did you have any issues like that with either teachers or fellow students who didn't like what you had to say?
Of course, with fellow students, I've had issues, but in terms of professors, I feel like they've been pretty receptive. Um, the last time that I said something in class, the professor it was just dead silent in the room after I said it. He just like didn't know what to say because like how do you respond to that if they really support people with disabilities, and the majority of people with Down syndrome and other disabilities are being aborted, like what do you say to that? It's just wrong. And I did do a project for one of my classes that was the topic that I chose was abortion. And the professor, she came up, we were tabling for our final project. She came up to my table and she was trying to debate me on it. So fortunately, that was at the end of the semester. So, I didn't really have to deal with her the rest of the class. Um, I challenged her and she gave me an A in that class. So it didn't really affect anything. But it's crazy for that specific project that I did, I had to have a security guard because, there were threats and everything. So yeah, it's just definitely an issue that you got to pick your battles and figure out, read the room kind of.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you this, and all those that are listening that are around in and around your age, it doesn't get any easier when you're out of college, out into the working world, and whatever line of work you're in. You could be, you could be sitting around a conference room or in a meeting, and people will say things that are extremely liberal and against our values, and it's tough to know, what do I do? What do I say? Should I say anything? Certainly that happened to a lot of people with COVID-19 and the vaccine, right? A lot people
Yes.
had their jobs and their livelihoods threatened tremendously.
Yeah.
So it doesn't get any easier, and maybe even harder, because in some ways your job could be on the line, if you don't go along with the corporation or whatever the case may be. So you do have to be strong still. Okay, so I want to ask you a little bit about, so in looking at your Instagram page, and for those that want to follow you, it's at Skylar Culbertson. If that's okay, Skylar, is it okay to give that out?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, you take on issues on here. Just looking at your page, you take on issues that it seems like you are really, really someone that the left is not going to like, because you have pictured yourself with some guns, and a portion of your Instagram page in regards to guns. So abortion, conservatism, Christianity, and guns. You are going to cause leftists' hair to, set on fire. So tell me about your perspective on guns, because if you're this young girl, young woman, sorry, and you apparently support the Second Amendment. And we are told that it is a horrible, horrible thing, and kids are dying, and we don't care about school shootings because we don't want to curtail the Second Amendment. So tell me about the Second Amendment and what it means to you.
Yes, yeah. So obviously, especially given the recent shootings, this is a very hot topic right now, and I definitely have received some backlash from people just like stalking my Instagram with my
Mhm.
gun pictures. But yeah, I'm very pro Second Amendment, and as we know, I think it just really comes down to people not knowing the facts about guns and gun control. We look at cities like Chicago, and they have the highest crime rates, and so I think people just don't understand the reality of what's going on and what actually works. I mean, if a person is going to break the law by murdering people, then of course they're going to continue to break the law, with getting guns. And I think that's pretty obvious. It's probably common sense to you and me, but unfortunately not to many other individuals.
Yeah, it's so funny to me when I see, in schools or stores, it said this is a gun-free zone, no guns, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, if someone is going to come in there and use a gun to murder innocent people, what do you think they're going to see that sign and say, "Oh, shoot, it's a gun-free zone. It's illegal to carry a gun. I better turn around and go home." I mean, it's absurd to me.
Yep. Yep, it is. Yep. And one of my
Yeah.
big things too is like being a female, I always tell people that gun control is a tool of the patriarchy. Like it is the
Mm,
great equalizer. And me as a woman, um, being, men could easily overpower me just because of my size, and I feel protected, having a gun. And so that's why I always tell people, and especially
mhm.
feminists, that gun control is really a tool of the patriarchy.
Man, so now you're attacking the patriarchy. I mean, that you are going to be literally the left's worst enemy, because you're going after everything here. So, uh, I mean, that's really cool. So, what are your plans, if you can share? What was your college major? What were your interests? Obviously, we know some of your interests, but what are your plans now that you're graduating?
Yeah, so this is crazy. Whenever I came to William Mary, like I said, I was kind of, borderline liberal. So my major is actually film and media studies, and I would say I don't really have any interest in that anymore, which is just fine, because obviously I wouldn't ever change my experience at William Mary because I'm a so much better person because of it. Right now, everything's kind of up in the air in terms of what I want to do. I've been considering the military, maybe law, and right now, I think God is kind of calling me back into the pro-life movement to find a career in that field. But I think for right now, I'm just planning to take a solid year off just to figure out my plans and just break from all of the liberalism here at William Mary.
Yeah. So, what you said you came from a conservative home, and your family, instilled a lot of these values. Have you
Yes.
had what has been in your engagement with them as far as you being public like this? I mean, I could see, if it were my daughter on college campus, and I've told my wife, I said, my daughter's going to carry a gun. I don't know if she will, but ultimately that's my feeling. Not only
Yeah.
are you on a young woman on a college campus, uh, but you're also someone taking on these what are considered controversial issues. Has your family said, "Hey, Skylar, can't you dial it back a little bit," or anything like that?
No, no, they have always encouraged me to pursue my dreams and what I'm passionate about, and been so supportive throughout my whole time as being outspoken at William Mary. Of course, they do worry about my safety, especially going to protests and just honestly just like walking on campus because everybody knows me and I've gotten threats. So
Mhm,
it's just unfortunate that I have to deal with that and that they have to worry about me just to be on campus. But
mhm.
no, like in general, very supportive of everything and whatever I decide for my career.
Yeah, excellent. That's really great. Uh, so yeah, so this was really great. Like I said, I think, being a young person is in being conservative, being Christian, pro life, taking on the patriarchy, being pro Second Amendment. You're a target, and yet, you're a young person, and yet you have the courage, the strength, and the great leadership to stand up to it. Certainly better than I ever would have at your age. I will be honest with that. So, what are some of your other passions that you have an interest in? Have you been involved in sports, or with trans people in your locker room, or any challenge like that?
No, no, yeah, it's crazy. So I would say, like I said, coming into college, I was not into politics at all, and in fact, I literally hated politics. I would avoid all political conversations at all costs. So
Mhm.
coming to William Mary, I kind of was just involved in some Christian organizations, um, but from here on out, I would really say everything has to do with some political issue, whether that be the pro life issue or the trans issue, gun
Mhm.
rights, anything like that. So I would say that's really my passion and where I focus the majority of my time.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll reiterate my general feeling for those that listen to my show. You consistently, my feelings is that this is not an issue. This is not a situation of Republican versus Democrat or left versus right. This has become a society in which it's good versus evil. And there is one side, and I'm not saying all Republicans or all Republican policies or politicians are good. No, it has nothing to do with party. It's good versus evil. And the things that are being peddled by the left, I'll call them the left, not the Democrats, because I think there are plenty of very good Democrats. They're wrong on a number of issues, but those on the left are peddling policies, beliefs, and philosophies that are outright evil. And it's up to people like you, people like me, as small as we might be, to go out there and peddle the truth. And evil will not stop fighting. And they will come at us with everything evil has. And that's what we're seeing out there today. And, with the violence and, the attacks on conservatives, it's never going to end, right? There won't be a winner per se and a loser. It'll just continue to have to fight forever. So, Skylar Culbertson, thanks so much for coming on. This was a really great conversation. You're doing great stuff. Please keep up the great work that you're doing outside of school. Congratulations on graduating here in about a month. And can you maybe just again, as we finish, let everyone know how they can follow you if they're interested in following you on social media?
Yes, yeah, thank you. So yeah, you can follow my personal account, which is Skylar Culbertson, and then my pro-life organization's account is WM Tribe for Life.
Excellent.
Thank you so much for having me on, Jim.
Yeah, my pleasure. This is a great conversation. Thanks so much. And thank all of you for listening to this episode of Fides Podcast. Please check out all my podcasts on all the different podcast apps, on YouTube if you really want to. I don't like YouTube, but Rumble. You could also catch me on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on rightamericamedia.com. So thank you again for listening, and we'll see you next time.